Greetings. Today we cover the fourth and final installment of Daniel's perception of truth. We concluded yesterday stating that Jesus, the cutting off of Messiah after 69 of these 7 weeks, was only involved because he was fulfilling number 4 of the 7 listed infinitives to make intercession, to make atonement, reconciliation for the unrighteous acts of man. And Daniel 9:26 clarifying causes me to think of 2 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse 21, where it says, "For he hath made him to become sin for us, who knew no sin, that we might be made the righteousness of God in him." In Isaiah 53 and verse 12, we find these words, "Therefore will I divide him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he hath poured out his soul unto death. And he was numbered with the transgressors, and he bare the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors." Hebrews 9:28, "So Christ was once offered to bear the sins of many, and unto them that look for him shall he appear the second time without sin unto salvation." Peter says in 1 Peter 2:24, "Who his own self bare our sins in his own body on the tree, that we, being dead to sin, should live unto righteousness, by whose stripes ye were healed." Again in 1 Peter 3:18, he says, "For Christ also has suffered for sins, the just one for the unjust ones, that he might bring us to God, being put to death in the flesh, but quickened by the Spirit." And John says in 1 John 3:5, "And you know that he was manifested to take away our sins, and in him is no sin." So the second part of Daniel 9:26 says, "In the city and the holy place it shall decay with the going out one." This refers to the destruction of the city and the holy temple in AD 70, shortly after the going out of Messiah. Therefore, in the final part of Daniel 9:26, there is a reference to the other of the 70 weeks. You see, 70 minus 69 leaves 1 week. At the time of the coming in of Messiah, in order that it means the second coming of Christ, as we call it. So here the third part of the literal verse says, "In the coming in one, they shall continue to the extreme and in themselves with a deluge, a flood, and until the finish of war having been cut short and remaining so, fixed order destructions." Again, the word that's used here is not in the New Testament, and it's only used here in the Septuagint. And it may be more of an Aramaic word than a Hebrew. Kits, meaning to the extreme end. The nearest Greek root must be either be kopos, meaning to cut short, or kopto, to cut down. Again, later Revelation teaches us that this language refers to the fact that God, as he exercises the 70th week of Daniel's prophecy upon the Jewish people in Jerusalem, will shorten the time period by half, but it will involve many punishments in rapid fulfillment. Look at the language of Daniel 9:26, the final part again. It will be punishment to an extreme level. 2, it will come in like a flood. 3, the Antichrist will be the agent of God to administer this final judgment to accomplish the last of his 7 purpose infinitives as stated in verse 24, which will end when Jesus rides in on his white horse to save them from the utter persecution which is planned for them as recorded in the book of Revelation in chapter 19. Purpose 5 is now in view when Jesus comes to bring in an everlasting righteousness. Purpose number 6 is in view when Jesus comes to finish all the prophecies recorded in the book of Revelation as promised, as well as a few things that even Daniel and John were not allowed to reveal to us. And purpose 7 is also in view when Jesus will be anointed a Holy One of the Holy Ones. That is, as the King of the kingly ones and the Lord of the lordly ones. This is the further message of Daniel 9:27. And he shall enable a covenant with many ones, 1 week, and at the half of the week your sacrifice and oblation it shall be removed. And an abomination of the desolations upon the holy altar, even until an accomplishment of purpose of the season of time it shall be given over to the desolation. Now the word here, spor nada, is not used in the New Testament, used in the Septuagint about 70 times to translate the Hebrew word meaning an oblation, which referred to the voluntary, the free will gift offering, the thank you gift above and beyond the required sacrifices. So this concerns the cessation of the Old Testament blood sacrifices and oblations, which the 7-year covenant will allow to commence, but will be stopped halfway through the 7 years. And as we conclude Daniel 9, let me offer this observation. Daniel is not finished in his passion, his pursuit, and his perception of the truth. Nor you and I should we ever allow our passion and pursuit and perception of the truth to become finished either.